Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our segment with Dr. Christen Scott. I'm Marisa Maggio-Harelson in Phoenix, Arizona. So nice to have you here on our What the Health this Friday with Dr. Christen Scott, who is a psychologist. And I call her, or she calls herself, the yoga shrink. She is in Jupiter, Florida, and she joins us this morning to talk about anxiety, grief, depression, and modalities for helping people work through difficult times in their life, and how activating the body. Also, there's different modalities to activate the body. She's going to talk a little bit firsthand. This is a woman who definitely knows mental health and owned a yoga studio with her husband. 2 years ago in October or November, this coming November, um, she unexpectedly lost her husband, and it's just been, her life has been, I'm sure many of you know, at times when things happen suddenly, the trauma and the stress that you feel right away. And I know that firsthand when my mom passed away 12 years ago, and it was like there was no notice, right? It was a sudden passing, and I could feel my whole body shutting down. And I could start crying here. And this is going to be an emotional segment, I'm sure. But Dr. Christen and I have become fast friends. I think we were we were meant to meet each other, and through this beautiful business of Life Vantage, we have definitely connected. We're very life-minded and like-minded. We both teach yoga, and she has really implemented the techniques of breath work and mindfulness and movement with healing. And I'm going to just let her share her story. So, Dr. Christen Scott, thank you so much for joining us today, being on our What the Health segment. Could you please share a little bit about your story? And I am going to show people your before and after photos in a little bit. Well, actually, I should probably do that now, right?
Sure, absolutely.
As you're talking. So go ahead and take it away. I'm going to do that.
Thank you, Marisa. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you are
And
welcome.
let me just tell you a little bit about my story. Let me tell you a little bit about my Life Vantage story, and then I can weave into the grief as well. So I've been part of Life Vantage now for over 4 years. My husband and I owned a yoga studio in South Florida. I'm a clinical psychologist. I was in the DC area, but saw more transformation in yoga than I did in traditional psychotherapy. So my husband and I moved to Florida. We opened a yoga studio, and we ran that for 7 years, and it was amazing, but it really brick and mortar business, it just you're tied to it. So it was definitely a love, a service, but it was definitely definitely difficult. And so I was looking for something, and Life Vantage came across basically walked into a yoga studio and met someone walked into a coffee shop and met someone that invited me to a meeting, and started to see what Life Vantage was about and what activation was about. And I was really interested right away. So this was in April of 2019. And once I sort of got a sense of what activation was, what this company was, I was really blown away by, the fact that, something could be lowering our oxidative stress 40% in 30 days. I knew what that was, knowing, as a psychologist, understanding depression and anxiety. So just quickly, I just wanted to, give you some background. COVID hits, and we had closed the yoga studio, and I was really into sort of running my business and doing Life Vantage and being activated, and as well as having a private practice, on Zoom, and helping a lot of people during COVID. So basically what happened was in November of 2021, Thanksgiving, my husband wasn't feeling well. We thought it was like a lingering stomach virus. And the day after Thanksgiving, he had a heart attack in front of me, and he died, and had to do CPR and call 911, and the whole everything that happens in relation to that. And it was trauma, like Marisa said, beyond grief. As a psychologist, I knew that I was dealing with a trauma reaction. And panic attacks and not sleeping. And, my mood was impacted, severe irritability. I'm not an irritable person, but my grief was really coming out in a lot of agitation and irritability. And that was the anxiety and the panic. And so, I think that it's important because this whole time I'm being activated and I feel like I never got sick, like everyone's like, be careful, be careful. I wasn't getting sick, but I definitely was definitely being impacted by the trauma. And I would say that it was really, what really had a big impact, what you're seeing is collagen. When collagen came out in June of, what was it, 2022, I started taking the collagen and I started getting activated. And these are my pictures of my day one, my 14 and 30. And to be honest, I was shocked even looking at the pictures because I just, I couldn't believe, like, it was amazing to me what I was starting to see in my face, and what was happening in my body was even more significant because what was happening was, like I said, I wasn't sleeping. I was having a lot of panic. And about 2 weeks, I started looking at myself and I was like, the bags on my eyes are a little bit less. I felt like I had aged 10 years. It was just awful. And about 3 weeks into taking the activated liquid collagen, I felt like I started sleeping a little bit more, like heavier, deeper. And the other thing is I felt a little bit lift in my mood. Like I felt a little bit more hopeful. And I was like, And I had spoken with someone who had had a similar situation, that had grief and a trauma reaction, and had said, like, give this some time, give the activation, the collagen activation some time, see if this starts to help, because she had noticed a shift in herself. And I was really blown away after a month, what I was starting to feel, like sleeping, just more hopeful, more confident, more like being able to think that there was something possible. And this was only 7 months after Preston had passed, and definitely, like, I started looking more deeply into the collagen, because a lot of times we think of collagen as hair, skin, and nails, but collagen, it's the most abundant protein in our body. It's lining your brain, your gut. And I am a big believer in the gut health and the mental health. So much of your serotonin, 80 to 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. Well, I didn't realize that collagen also has an impact in terms of serotonin. It increases the glycine, and that also increases your serotonin. And serotonin is a mood booster. It helps anxiety, it helps depression. The other thing too is that collagen, I was thinking about this energetically. I think, Marisa, you might relate to this, but collagen is the structure. It's the support of your whole body. And if you think about it, it was like my whole structure and support, everything was gone. Like I always said, I felt like a leaf in the wind. Like I had no structure, I had no foundation and no grounding. And on some level, I'm like, energetically, this collagen was like ground. It was allowing me to get that structure, and I felt grounded. And that's where this picture came from, was how, and what a huge impact collagen had for me and continued to have for me. And I felt really, really compelled to share it with other people, especially people dealing with grief, because we don't always think about collagen, and certainly not your run-of-the-mill collagen, but this collagen activation, is definitely something that I have been sharing, in my grief, in some of the people that I've met in grief groups, friends that I know that are dealing with difficult divorces. We don't always think about grief we think about grief when it comes to like someone dying, but we don't think about, what about divorce or retirement, or, positive changes are also things that we're grieving. Like now that I have been in grief, it's like I see grief everywhere, any even positive change, moving homes, can be a really positive thing, but, it's also a loss. And so I feel like this is just such an incredible healing modality that we can offer, people. And not just that, Marisa, but I also think just the other activation that really had a big impact on me was was the Tri-Synergizer, which is the Nerf 2, the Nerf 1, and the NAD.
That's right. And you can get it in bottles. Get it in your
Or
packet, your to-go
right.
packet. That's right. So I take them every day. And so let's talk a little bit about that. You were activated on these products 3 years prior to the collagen coming out. So talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about what that means.
Yeah. Well, the Tri-Synergizer to me is just incredible because it's activation. It's all about activating your body to do things that it stopped doing because of age or because of whatever reason. And the Nerf 2, we know, lowers oxidative stress 40% in 30 days. So that's huge. I mean, oxidative stress is related to everything, and the trauma, what that does to our bodies in terms of creating more oxidative stress. So I know that the Nerf 2 was protective. Nerf 1, we know, is affecting mitochondria, and depression there's mitochondrial dysfunction in depression. So we know that, helping the mitochondria is also going to help symptoms of depression, but it also just gives you energy. I mean, I had no energy like with the grief. So I know that activating my mitochondria, I know that, that was definitely something that helped me. And then NAD, I mean, I don't know if you guys know anything about NAD, but I mean, they're using NAD IV therapy in many places for depression, for addiction. And, again, it's been shown to have mood boosting benefits with serotonin, with dopamine. So those, I feel like, this is just going to keep me protected every day. And I do believe that had a big impact on me not getting sick, not having the levels of cortisol, I know, were ridiculously high because of the trauma and because of the stress. And to have anyone that knows, when your cortisol increases, your immunity decreases. And so even in the midst of COVID and everything, I was able to maintain my health. And I know that also, and Marisa, it allowed me to do yoga, and I'll talk about it allowed me to do the healing modalities that also could help me. And I know that was also allowing me to have the energy, the mental focus, the ability to eat, because with grief, I mean, it's like, you're not even here. I didn't even know where my keys were. my keys like for months, because you're just, it's a shutdown. It's a trauma. It's a shutdown of your whole nervous system. And so, I so attribute so much of my activation to being able to continue working and to be able to function, as a human being. Even 10 days later, Marisa, I was working, I was doing yoga, I mean, I don't know if that would have been possible.
Wow. That's beautiful. And so you're feeling really good today, obviously.
I
And
am.
the pathways, you talk about reducing oxidative stress because that can cause inflammation. That's going to wreak havoc on your cells. You talk about the Nerf1 protandem, activating the mitochondria, the engine. It just all makes sense. And when it's shut down with trauma and grief, and we know that people, and when people are in this mode of just going, the body and the cells were energy, you guys. So this is so important that we understand this. And then the NAD, of course, the most important anti-aging molecule in the human body. And we lose most of these proteins that activate NAD over a lifetime. So here we've got this beautiful NAD product that's actually activating your own NAD 100%, the proteins that activate NAD 100% in 24 hours with just 4 natural ingredients. I mean, the science is extraordinary. And this is what I really love, and using these products as tools to also be mindful, to also find rest. You have to rest, you have to hydrate, you have to eat clean, you have to move your body. Yoga is like, I just call it like the music for your body. Your body is craving to hear your breath, and your breath is the music. And you can play this beautiful orchestra in your life. And you don't have to be doing handstands and back bends. It's not about that kind of yoga. It's about gentle, mindful movements with breath. And when you start implementing these incredible products and that activated liquid collagen, which to me was a flipping game changer because I'm 62 and I had the crepey biceps happening, and I did not like that. And I was going, oh my gosh, I'm in downward facing dog. And I'm going, what the heck are these curtains on my biceps? And that has completely changed. I still have some. It's not perfect, but it just shows me that, wow, I'm really hydrating my body and the inflammation has really gone down. So all of these, we're a system. We're not one little thing. And so we have to activate the systems. And that's what I really love about, our products are activating the systems. So hopefully we don't have to medicate the symptoms. Like you could have gone down another rabbit hole. You could have gone
Hmm.
down a rabbit hole, and talk a little bit about that. Why some
Hmm.
people are looking for a quick fix and they want to take the medicine,
Hmm.
the
Hmm. Yeah.
prescription.
Well, I mean, a prescription, to help me sleep. I knew what that was going to do. It was going to numb, it was going to numb me. I knew that I needed to, just sort of, and then feel groggy and feel more down. And how was that going to impact me? And so, for me, it was definitely yoga. It was movement. Aside from activation, it was movement, it was breath, it was meditation. And I don't like to say exercise because when we're grieving, the last thing we need is someone telling us we need to do something else. It's move your body, it's move your body.
Exactly.
And yoga for me was natural. It's my husband and I owned a studio. I was on my mat. I felt close to him. Like it was natural for me to get on my yoga mat and move my body. It was different. I did a different kind of yoga, but if it's walking, if it's swimming, if it's whatever it is to move your body in a nourishing way, I think that's really important because it's going to allow you to sleep. All of these things that we're doing are going to also help with sleep and energy. We know movement's going to help. Mindfulness or prayer. I pray and meditate. But we know that mindfulness, meditation, 10 minutes a day can affect the amygdala. And the amygdala is the emotional reactivity part of the brain, that fight or flight. So I always had a meditation practice. And the day after Preston died, I got up and I meditated like for 10, because I was like, this is when I need to do this. It's like all of those tools, Marisa, it was like, now I'm going to really put them into use.
So can you give us an example of what you would tell somebody that is watching today that is going through some grief? What should they do? And maybe we can do a little breath work.
Mm. I think what they can do is, really intense grief. It's, connection is the key. We've heard connection is the cure. So, I think, the breath connects us to ourselves. Yoga connects us to our bodies, connects us to something higher. It's finding whatever's going to connect you to something bigger, because grief feels alone, feels
Mm.
and that alone feeling just makes everything worse. And to be honest, it is alone. No one's going to understand your grief because your grief is different. No one's going to understand my relationship with my husband. Nobody is going to really understand my grief. But if I can connect and feel like there's a connection, I'm connecting to something bigger than myself. Like I said, it could be breath, it could be prayer, it could be, it could be mindfulness, connecting to the wind, connecting to nature. I think
Mhm.
connection, Marisa, is what I would say, the number one piece. And so interesting that like you said, our activators, it's all connection, right? Like it all is, it's the plants are connected. It's just all connection. So I think that's what I would say for somebody grieving is find, a way to be connected. I'm thinking my dogs too, whatever it is, that would be my number one kind of nugget to leave people with. And self-care, just keep taking care of yourself, and compassion starts with compassion with ourselves. And being compassionate with yourself and giving yourself a lot of grace, because grief is one of the most, it's one of the most
Oh,
challenging things you could ever go through. And it's just a lot of love.
yes, I see that. I want to show, oh, sorry. I want to show this picture again because I look at your eyes and I am blown away. I look
Yeah.
at the dullness of your eyes in day 1. I see it getting better in day 14, and then they are crystal clear white in day 30.
Mm,
Now you've been on this activators for a year and what, 3 months, something like that?
yeah.
And you look beautiful. Your skin is glowing, and I'm sure you still have grief. I'm sure this didn't just make it go
Right.
away. It's
Right.
just a tool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that I had no idea that so much of our collagen is in our eyes, and when I
Yeah.
looked at myself, it's like, oh, I'm bright,
Yes.
and I think it's also showing what's happening energetically inside of me. The eyes are the window of the soul, it's like
Yes.
there's a clarity. It's like when they called it like the glow. I remember, what was it, like you get your glow on. It was literally like I glow. It was like that light inside started to come out, I mean, I think that's what I'm seeing.
Mhm.
That's what's coming to me now, Marisa.
It's really beautiful, and I just love your story. And so, if someone, what kind of like they go, I mean, I have people all the time say, I don't know how to meditate. I try, I don't know what to do. I just sit there. So, can you just give us something very simple that people can do?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, this is really simple. But well, first, let me first say, when everyone says I can't meditate because my mind races, I say that's normal. Your mind is always going to race. There's sometimes where I meditate and my mind is racing the whole time. That doesn't mean I didn't meditate. That was just the meditation that I had. So every time your mind gets away from whatever you're focused on, let's say it's the breath, then whenever your mind kind of wanders and you bring yourself back, that's a win. That's actually changing the amygdala. It's the coming back. So when you stray away, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the coming back. So don't beat yourself up for straying. First of all, they say, treat yourself like you would a puppy. And you're like, oh, let's come back. We're not going to yell at the puppy, right? We're not going to beat the puppy. Hopefully not. We're going to encourage the puppy to come back. So they say think about your mind like that. So I think a really basic meditation, Marisa, is setting a timer for 5 minutes. You could sit outside, you could listen to the birds, and just listen. And you can just listen, or you could just listen. You could do it inside and set a timer and just listen to your breath and set a timer for 5 minutes. They say 10 minutes is all it takes to change the structure of your brain, 10 minutes a day. But if you start with 5 minutes, that's beautiful. And then when the timer goes off, you shut it off. And when your mind goes to something else, you just bring it back to the breath, or bring it back to what you can hear. And that alone will do. I mean, it's amazing what it will do for your mind. It's amazing what it'll do for your brain. So that's a basic meditation, Marisa, that I think most of us on here have a phone. We can set a 5-minute timer and we can do it anywhere because we have our breath, and hopefully we have our ears, and we can hear. And if not, there are other forms of meditation as well.
Okay, that sounds really good. I try to do a 4-part breath sometimes with people, tell them something easy. Count to 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4,
Yes.
for 4. So,
Yes, that's a beautiful one. That's a really nice one.
well, Dr. Scott, thank you so much for being on today, for sharing your story. And, grief and trauma are real. They can play havoc on you, but, there's modalities, and our activators also can help. And boy, that liquid collagen, I have heard, you're not the only person that I have heard where it has flipped a switch in the brain that said, I don't even know what happened, but I didn't do anything different except add in collagen. So,
Mhm.
that can help, but you have to do the other things as well.
For
Thank
sure.
you.
For sure.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. And this wraps up this edition of What the Health. Bye bye. Thank you.